8. And then following town council meeting, June 12th, 2013 to order.
Is that the one? That red light on? Red light is on.
Yeah. So, roll call.
Frank Boyton. Wayne Peterson.
Amber Moore. Joe Allen indicated would be late, and we haven't heard from him. Frank, would you like to do the pledge of allegiance?
If you all join me and stand up, please, for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated.
Any abstentions or conflicts?
No. None.
Okay. Looking at tonight's agenda, under announcements, Jerry Amundsen from Lochner Engineering will not be coming.
What was he going to represent? Oh, I-15, okay.
Yeah, he's the contractor dealing with our section,
Okay, cool.
but he changed his mind. Okay. This is an old. I think everything else is okay. Right. Do I have any motion to?
I move we accept the agenda revised number 2 for the Town of Leeds Town Council, Wednesday, June 12, 2013, with the modifications made on 5B being removed. Therefore, all should stand as printed.
Are there any questions, comments about the minutes?
I'll second it. You want to just do the agenda first, or you want minutes included?
No, consent agenda.
Okay.
Is that not what you said?
Yep.
Thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
The 4th of July schedule is pretty much posted out front. There's breakfast and dinner in the fire department. They are having a, 5K run. They're doing cotton candy. Let's see. A couple of other things.
Bowman
Games.
Barnes is running for minute.
Bowman Barnes.
Loan Barnes is going to run the 5K.
Oh, okay. Slow down. And then the fireworks will be at 10. And next Wednesday at 8 a.m., Dr. Schuyler is leading a walking history tour of the Silver Reef area. And I've heard him speak before, and it's very informative. And I've done somewhat of the walk, so it's not real treacherous. I highly recommend it. That's next Wednesday, and it has been advertised in the newspaper. So this is an effort by Silver Reef Foundation to get things off the ground. Yes.
Could I make a suggestion? I've got a lot of things on my plate, that if someone would call down to CMI at the university, they might have someone come out with the film camera. We have Go cameras and the whole works. It'd be nice to film that tour so people can see it.
Okay. CME.
Oh, CMI,
CMI.
Phil Tuckins, the director of the film school. It'd be kind of nice to have that, they have some student come do it. I don't know if we can, but
And then on Friday, the 21st, he's going to do a shorter tour of the historic cemeteries, pioneer cemeteries.
either one of those would be great.
No, or both if they're willing.
Yeah.
I can find them in the telephone books in my,
Yeah, it's just the campus. I'm just gonna be out of town tomorrow. Now, so.
so, let's see. Three of us, Bob, Wayne, and I went to Hinton Burdick's local government seminar on new information on a new audit, what's been passed by the legislature. Found it a helpful meeting and interesting, as most of it, even if you're not a CPA. Okay. Any other announcements? Okay. Somebody want to move to open the public hearing?
I'll move to open the public hearing on the 2013-2014 budget for the town of Leeds.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now open. Does anybody want to come up and make comments on it?
Is this going to be final? Is this the final?
My name's Alan Roberts. I appreciate the opportunity to utilize a public hearing. I think it's important that the public be able to have an opportunity to address issues. I wanted to express appreciation to Wayne, especially as the treasurer, for being very much involved in what is before the town in a proposed budget. That treasurer is a key individual, even though in our form of government, Angela, you as the mayor stand as the administrator that's ultimately over that. I really appreciate the document being paralleled with the state document that helps break that down. It's very good. I wanted to comment on a statement that Joe Allen made a few weeks ago about an increase in wages for paid individuals, whether they're employees of the town or an administrator in the mayor's position for our form of government. I'm very much in favor of what Joe's direction was going. It does show that we are acting in a professional manner for those compensations. There are a lot of time that is devoted for that administrator. When we find professional employees that you want to keep, we have to give a reason to stay. And turnover in employees costs a lot of money and a lack of continuity. So I'm very supportive of, in that budget in your administrative, that as the administrator, Angela, that you do what you can to see that people are compensated what they should get. I know the wages that were paid have been there for a number of years without any increase. So I'm very pleased with the budget. Again, Wayne, I know a lot of that came from you, and that I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on the budget? Roxanne, would you like to say anything about next year's budget in reference to float or?
Oh, sure. Roxanne Lewis. I feel that there should be a line item for float for the royalty for the parades that are held for the year. It's one of the few times that Leeds gets to put a positive spin, especially if there's anything to announce for the town with a float, the royalty. The county wants floats in the parades. The county is designed for floats, and they really encourage all of the royalties to have a float. The girls get to represent Leeds And this is one avenue that they get to do that in a very positive manner. And one of the few things that they get to do as a royalty here in Leeds.
I believe there's, what, 6 parades that would be...
There's a possible 6 parades to use the float in this year. Everything from Founder's Days to Peach Days to Washington County Parade, yeah. There's all kinds.
Would you like to give any more detail about a float?
Well, float takes a lot of work. It would behoove the town to invest in the trailer that can be used year after year, so that it's not something you're starting from scratch every year. I've done this a number of years, and it's expensive. We're talking upwards, you know, it depends on the float, depends on what you put on it, what kind of float you get, but anywhere from a simple something, nothing, of $500 to $1,000 to put together a float. But if you're starting from scratch every year, that's going to always stay high. The plywood that goes into it to build the base has to be ripped off and thrown away. I've done that enough years, it makes me cry because I just see the waste. Things can be reused year after year so that the cost would come down. We've talked about building a float from scratch so that it's cheaper instead of going out and personally buying one that somebody else has built, and we can build it to specifications of a float. So those are some issues that, you know, the town could look at and investing in instead of just continually pouring out money.
How much do you think you need for the trailer? Because I'm thinking if we got a certain type of trailer, it could be used for other things in town.
It could be used. I don't know. I know that Clay Dalton had said that he would look at trying to put one together to help us to cut down the cost because he knows how to build those. I know if you buy one somebody else has done, you're looking at, $5,000–6,000. And that's just for not much. But he said he could build them for much cheaper than that. So, and it would be someone engineering and designing it.
About what size are you talking about?
Nothing less than 16 feet. And they're typically 8 feet wide.
I know this is an unfair question, so I apologize for asking it, but since I've already started the question. The ones that they sell at hardware stores, like at Lowe's and other places, would that have the capacity to be safe? Because the only concern I would have is we ran into this problem where I came from. They had the school built a trolley, and because it wasn't through, they had to insure their own custom liability. So if we bought a trailer from someone that wasn't a manufacturer, then we would have to cover the liability on that trailer. Any kids that were riding on that, there would be potential for a
Well, I
lawsuit.
guess that's something, the town would have to look at it. If we had to buy something commercial, then,
Just for the liability
yeah,
aspect.
for the liability
So what
aspect.
the sad part was, after they built this trolley,
Mhm.
they had to destroy it.
Yeah,
Because
that's,
the liability was, construction liability was $50,000.
so I guess that's something, you have to look at your insurance policies and see if there's something that would negate someone engineering it that knows how to build floats but isn't a certified builder.
Because what I was thinking, if someone was gonna do a tractor pull or pull something with hay or something, you would wanna have a trailer that was licensed.
Yeah.
So I understand that you have several people offering their trailer
To use them for
year.
this, yes, for this year. The town, the residents of Leeds would like to see a float in the parades, and we've had several offers to use the trailers of someone else and to build them up. Like I said, it's still stuff that's going to be wasted because we have to build up and tear it down.
But I'm supportive of getting the money for the trailer and for the parade. I think it's a great use. And so, I think we could budget something in. That's just my opinion, so I'm on this giveaway day.
Do you know offhand, do other towns, do they do any kind of fundraising specifically for their floats or not?
It depends on the town. It does. I know Ivans, they spend upwards of $2,000 to $3,000 for their float every year. I'm not saying we have to do that, and I'm not sure that the girls go out and do that. Our girls have gotten together and we have addressed fundraising. None of the fundraising will happen before the float has to be completed, but we are looking at wanting to raise funds to help with the float. So we've got the Yellow Book in August, which is after the parade. We've got the 4th of July activities that we want to put forth fundraising. We've got a car wash planned, but to put a float on today for this year, we'd have to have some money in advance before we could put anything in that.
I think it would offer a lot of opportunities, as you described, that possibility for fundraising, because community activities can be a part of this overall process. And what would be needed, obviously, is for the town to step forward with some money in advance with the hopes that some of the fundraising could help defray that. But I think that would be a wonderful combination of events that would result from that.
We hope so too, and that's, I can just introduce the royalty. You guys haven't had a really chance to meet them, you know the names, but our princess is Samantha. Come on up here, girls.
Yes.
Yes. It's Samantha Mathis, and she'll introduce her court.
Okay. So my entire court's not here. Our first attendant, Whitney Sullivan, is actually in Chicago right now. But this is my second attendant, Abby Braithwaite, and my Miss Congeniality is Amelia Braithwaite. So, yes.
And you're Samantha Mathis. State.
All right.
So you want to give us some idea of what's in the fundraising that you have in mind?
Yeah, hold on. So we actually had a meeting a couple days ago to discuss the fundraising opportunities and different things. And one of them, a couple of them, we're not exactly sure which ones yet. She did mention the Yellow Book. And what you do is you sign up for a route and you go deliver Yellow Books and they pay you to deliver those. And anyone can do it, so we're thinking about doing that for fundraising. Also, we were thinking about doing a bake sale or a car wash, maybe selling different things at the 4th of July, like cotton candy, glow sticks, different drinks, different things, and like necklaces. And yeah, we have a couple more ideas, but they're not exactly solid yet.
So cow pies.
Yes, the cow pies. It's basically you get targets and you lay them around the field, and people buy the targets, and you walk the cow around, and whichever one poops on it, the people pay the money, and you give them like a prize or something like that, and it's a big fundraiser, or so I've been told. I didn't come up with the idea. Yeah.
The only caution I will offer from a previous place of residence is that some states might require certain types of licenses in order to do any kind of game of chance, and it sounds as if that might be into that category. And it's not trying to put an end to it, but just to make sure that that's investigated, please.
We were just tossing around ideas, so. Okay.
What about the flags? Was that discussed at all?
I did discuss the flag idea with the girls, and they liked the idea a lot. They liked being able to be responsible to put the flags up, and having people donate for the girls to do that in the town is not a bad idea. I thought it was a good one, Angela.
Is that the flags around town?
Yes.
I had several comments my way about a little disappointment that they weren't at.
Right. We're not, I guess the town's not getting enough volunteers to do it. So Angela, do you want to tell them idea?
Okay. My thought was, I think it's important to get the flags up at least for the 4 events during the summer, and then we have the Memorial Veterans Day in November. And if we can't get volunteer families or groups to do it, that offering like a $50 to the Princess Fund for each time that the girls do the put out and take out. It takes about 2 hours, I think, to do each, because there's 100 flags.
And we will need somebody to drill out those, or clean out the pipes.
I've talked to Tony about that, to see what we can do about that.
That's a big part of the whole thing.
You mean there's a lot of them plugged, that he just mentioned that a few of them
A
were?
lot of the caps are missing. We put them up, one time when I helped, that really slowed everything down. We just gotta go through there and maybe restore the caps on pipes that don't have. Putting up the flags is easy, but just cleaning out the pipes is the real hard part. Well, putting up the flag, it's a chore, but
So, Friday is Flag Day, is that, are we go for that, or?
We're ready to do that.
Okay, so we can at least know that that one time is gonna happen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? or-
I'd just like to make a comment. I don't think people know how much she has donated time to this town and all the things with flags and stuff. And whatever she wants, let's just give it to her.
Okay, I like this idea.
You do really want. So the flags are great. I know you guys spent a lot of your personal time. There are a lot of people in the community who donated money, but you took the initiative to do it. So, you know, my applause to you, and my hat to you.
I like helping. Sorry, any questions?
Good. Thank you, thanks. Any other comments on the 2013-14 budget? Any more questions? So, somebody want to move to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing on the budget for 2013-14.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to action items, taking action on the 2013-14 budget as well as reallocations on the, is that a separate?
They're two separate
I don't know,
items.
they're just in front of me.
7A should be done separate from 7B,
Yes, okay,
and should involve a roll call vote when we get to it.
yes.
And if I could, Mayor, make a motion with regard to the reallocation of budget expense. And that motion would be to move $8,300 in the 2012-2013 budget, that's the year we're currently in, from administration to other professional services, and additionally to move $3,500 from administration to park and park areas. Specifically, in our accounts that we keep on a regular basis, we'll be moving the $8,300 from codification, which is not going to be happening before the end of June, to legal. The codification is included in the 2013-2014 budget. And then $3,500 would be going from administration wages to public works wages. The wages are estimated with regard to how much work is going to be done in the various areas between administration, the town hall building, roads, and parks, and that is the need for that adjustment of the $3,500. It's not that total wages for our public works people are going up, it's just the areas that they are spending time has been different than the budget reflected. These adjustments are necessary as part of the state requirements for maintaining our budget. And they are happening very close to, and this is the way it should be happening, in advance of the money actually being spent. We might not be 100% ahead of it, but we're awfully close to the point where we're there. But they will be needed between now and June 30th, and that's why we need to do it at this point in time. So I would like to move for that $8,300 and that $3,500 transfer to be approved by the town council. Because they are transfers and do not involve any addition in spending on the part of the town, it requires a council resolution and not a public hearing.
I second that. Any questions? Okay. All in favor, we roll call. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Roll call vote. All in
Frank
favor?
Blakely votes yes.
Wayne Peterson votes yes.
Andrew Rohr, yes. Thank you, Wayne and Bob, for ironing all that out and getting us, crossing our Ts and dotting our Is there. Okay.
And then for item 7B, if I could suggest an amendment to the preliminary budget before we approve it as a final budget, with the hopes that we will be able to see some successful fundraising in the community supporting the Princess Pageant and their efforts to perhaps be able to reimburse the town. I would suggest we add to the proposed preliminary budget an extra $1,000 for the Princess Pageant, bringing the total allocated for 2013-2014 to $2,000, again with the hope that we can get community support to end up deferring that cost through those fundraising efforts. Otherwise, I would move that we accept the preliminary budget with that one amendment as our final budget.
Where, was it this page here? Expenses.
Correct.
Okay, I will second that if that's needed. Is it needed on this or okay. That was seconded by me, just for the tape.
So, are there any other areas of question?
The only comment I would like to make is to, again, as I did at the last meeting, thank Bob Goldsberry for his efforts in getting together the numbers that I was able to help him with as far as the treasurer's role. But without Bob's efforts, we would not have been able to put together this budget on a timely basis and to get it moved forward to the state on time here, which I greatly appreciate, Bob, your help.
Okay, if no other questions, roll call vote on the 2013-14.
Frank Boyko votes aye, and I just want to note that that's the first time I've ever been in a budget hearing that somebody got applause.
The stoning will be later.
Wayne Peterson votes yes.
Angela Rory, yes. Okay, moving on to item C, the fireworks.
Mayor, would it be inappropriate that I could make a challenge, and since we were just talking about the budget and the pageant?
Sure.
So, Roxanne, if I said, I'll give $100, and then you can find other families that want to give $100 and maybe create something, a little thing and saying, in your flyer or something, hand out to the town, to say these families donated to the float.
Yeah, we actually, in the next year's pageant, we have a thank you page or a sponsor page, but that would go on that, thanks to those who
So
sponsored.
just put me down for 100, and I challenge everybody else in town to match my 100.
All right, thank you, great.
Is that a good start, or should I go at $1 million?
Oh, I like that, that's good.
We'll stay at 100 for right now.
Okay.
Sorry, Mayor.
No, that's
I
fine.
know I'm part of the control up here, so.
Okay, we are not going to act on the 4th of July fireworks resolution, but we are going to discuss it. And I have, do we already have that in the packets, Christie? Chief Lewis, did you have a chance to look at the email on this resolution, this ordinance?
Yes, I did.
It will be having a public hearing next meeting and voting on it. If you want to say anything at this time, or if you want to give direction in the next few days.
Comments regarding it if you want, though. But a few comments regarding it if you want.
As I read it, I think everything really looks pretty good.
The only perhaps comment I have is down on the first page on item C. The way this is worded, it says, due to unusual extreme hazardous fire conditions in certain portions of the municipality, the discharge of any and all fireworks, including Class C common fireworks, is prohibited in the area of the municipality described as follows. Did it change since I got email?
No, we don't have a C on ours.
Well, I only know what you emailed me. You emailed me a resolution number. That's all I ever saw. So what is this?
This is one I thought we were emailing, we worked it out this afternoon.
Well,
It's very similar.
very similar thing. Sorry, I only had what I had. So help me, Christie, find.
Probably under definitions, section 2, hazardous environmental conditions, means,
That's not like the other one, this one just was.
Okay. I'm sorry, give me just a quick second.
that's fine. Take your time.
We just wanted your wife to look really good up here.
Yeah, okay. I hope people in the audience understand that you don't short you do.
Well, I'm just pleased that you are here and that you are at least available for some comment, since we were just really trying to pull this
So
together.
can you, is there a C that's in that, now, the proposed ordinance? Looks like C's been dropped. I can't find,
Fire ordinance says it.
well, I'm
Did
talking
you
about
like
the
C?
proposed
Is it
ordinance.
something
What
we
is
should
this?
add?
This is not the
This
proposed
is,
ordinance?
this is probably one that you sent me, but this is one we had from prior year that we pulled up today.
So,
And so we would like to.
see, I didn't look at the ordinance number. So it's February 2013.
Well, we
ordinance.
put that in there, so that's what the ordinance number will be once if we adopt.
But everything below the ordinance number is a proposed idea, is that what the way to say
Pretty
it?
much the whereas, yeah.
Okay. Because it does appear that the resolution I was emailed,
Let's see that one. That's what one we were gonna go with, and
yeah,
then we
there's not,
decided to do an ordinance so that it would comply from year to year, whereas a resolution won't. So that's
Well, I
why we
haven't,
wanted to do the resolution.
I apologize, I haven't seen this
No,
ordinance.
no,
so
I tell you
don't
what.
know what's in it.
We're not looking for an answer today, but we need it within the next couple of days so we can
Well,
post.
what I'll do is read the ordinance and then I could email you some comments. I
Yeah,
don't know that.
maybe there's
I've
a
got
blend of
choice
the
at this
two that
point.
would work better for you.
Maybe just thought a couple thoughts.
Okay.
What we have done in the past is been fairly restrictive by designating an authorized spot in the town to
You're saying
discharge
we
those
should?
fireworks. I'm talking about what we have done. I'm just kind of giving you the history so you have something to think on what people have kind of become accustomed to and the way it's been controlled. As we've just had it on the 4th of July, provide an opportunity back here on the cement pad and encourage people to bring their own personal fireworks. And then we provide some ambulance staff and a couple of trucks around the area to make sure that it stays in check there. And I can't remember, I think maybe Alan can remember whether we totally restricted it to that area, but a lot of the municipalities are doing that and just saying, look, this is the only legal place to shoot them. When you make that statement, you just prohibited people from shooting them off at their own homes, still. So I think this council needs to decide whether they want to be that restrictive, whether you want to restrict people from being able to shoot them off on their own property
This
and
particular,
designate a spot or not. I think that's the biggest thing.
the wording on this particular ordinance gives a lot of leeway because things may change from year to year. And within here, it's in section 3, the local fire official is authorized to issue an order to prohibit, fires, fireworks, and then in section 4, to list which areas are affected, which areas it is prohibited in, and which areas it would be allowed in. And so it gives flexibility each year.
Correct. Well,
As-
it's probably
as
not a
things
bad
may-
idea,
Things may
as
change.
it does change a little.
So that means it's in your part of the court to come up with an, how's
The
it-
map, I notice it says a map and a
to
written
issue,
order.
to issue an order that would be posted on
Okay.
the town website, from your website, and various places here in town.
Okay. Well, I will read the ordinance and make a comment tomorrow on it, so
Great.
that I'll have that. I apologize for that.
That's-
I had it mixed up there.
I'm just glad
We
you
appreciate the town's support, helping fund the fireworks. I don't know that residents really understand how it's funded, but we do, and we appreciate that. And I believe it's a successful day for the community. A lot of people enjoy it, come out, enjoying being able to stay here and enjoy the evening instead of having to go to St. George or something. So I think it's successful. We appreciate the support we get.
So, having discussed it a little bit, does the council have any questions or comments or thoughts? I know we're just now looking at it tonight.
No, I,
We're not voting on it tonight.
right, I realize that. And whatever Fire Chief Lewis wants to recommend to us, he's been wise on this, and we've done a good job in the past. So I'm receptive either to the ordinance or to another resolution. So I feel comfortable with whatever he wants to suggest. Because I know this was talked about at the state level, and we have to word things a certain way. So
Now, we thought an ordinance would carry a little more weight than just a resolution.
right,
And looking at something that could stand year to year,
right.
that maybe this looked pretty good. But,
And then after he has his input into it, I'm fine.
okay. As soon as he sends it to me, I will send it out to y'all to look at and think about for a vote. And we'll have a public hearing scheduled next time on this. Any other thoughts on the 4th of July fire ordinance? Okay. All right, moving on to discussion items. Let's see, still looking at the old. Rick Sant, you're up next. Like the Silver Point Estates, Phase 1. And you have a representative from Department of Environmental DEQ with you.
Okay, my name is Rick Sant, and I'm one of the owners of the Silver Point subdivision. And I have two things that I wanted to discuss with you today. The first item was to discuss the cleanup process that we're going to be going through this summer. And then also to discuss the BLM parcel that I found that overlaps Silver Reef Road. And because it adjoins our property line, when we develop that road, we're going to have to go on there. I've already discussed this with BLM, and I met with them and reviewed it. And I thought that I would be able to do what we did last time for the other road that we had to get an easement for on our subdivision. And I thought I could get an easement for the town, so that the town, when they have the money and the desire to improve that portion of Silver Reef Road, they could do it. And then also Cletus Hamilton, who is to the east of Silver Reef Road there, he wanted me to get some access roads off of Silver Reef Road there. And all of that involves...
Into his property?
Into his property. I went to BLM with that proposal, and they told me that, first of all, you have to agree that you're going to do the improvements within 2 years. And then secondly, you have to tell them exactly where the improvements are going to be. In other words, it has to be surveyed and everything. So at this time, I think the only thing that we can do is just get an easement from BLM allowing us to go on their property while we're improving Silver Reef Road on our property. In other words, it's going to be impossible to draw a magic line there and say that no equipment is going to go on their property. And so we need to have permission to go on their property while we're developing that portion of Silver Reef Road. As you can see on the map that I've provided you, it's really a strange piece of property. You know, it's what, 1.3 acres, and it's sitting right on top of Silver Reef Road. Now, the good thing about it is if you never do anything to it, you don't have to have an easement. In other words, there's prescriptive rights there that allow you to have Silver Reef Road on the BLM parcel. So if nothing is ever done, you don't have to do anything. But as soon as you want to widen it, improve it, pave it, do anything to it, you need to get permission from the BLM to do it. And then when you do that, you can go through the same process that we went through this past year. And it's a very simple process. With the town requesting it, why it takes somewhere between 2 and 3 months to have it be approved. So it should be a fairly simple process. So what I'm proposing now is that I draw up an easement agreement for the town, take it to your attorney to Snow and have him approve it and everything. And then after he approves it, he would give it to you, Mayor, for your signature. And then it would go to BLM, and then they would approve it. And all the easement would allow us, as we improve our section of Silver Reef Road, it would allow us to have some of our vehicles, grading equipment, things like that, overlap on their property a little bit. So I'd be happy to do all that work, to put it together, to do the maps and the surveying and everything that needs to be done, and then have Mr. Snow approve it and bring it to you for your signature. Do I have permission to do that?
Just to clarify, you would cover the cost of all of the surveys and the legal review and all?
That's correct.
Okay.
But you're not talking, are you talking about doing a survey now for this, or just getting
Well,
an easement to?
They need to know exactly where I'm going to be working on their property.
Okay.
So
So you're gonna have to do a
right.
survey anyway.
And so all they need to do is go out there and locate on their property exactly where I'm going to be working, where I'm going to be overlapping. I'll probably go like 100 feet inside their property line just to cover everything.
Okay.
I mean, you know, this will be something that you can review, that Heath can review, and if you don't like it, you don't have to sign it.
So I was really surprised at the length. I mean, you know, it's over 500 feet that
Yeah.
goes from the edge of the old Bill property,
Mhm.
the corner point there. Looks like maybe all the way up to the Villa Lobos house.
Yeah. You know, what happens is that mining claims were laid in here, and every once in a while you have a mining claim that doesn't overlap each other, and it leaves a little piece there.
And so they claim it.
And, right, and because there weren't any mining claims on it, BLM stepped in and claimed it. And I had no idea it was there until Cletus came to me, Cletus Hamilton. He says, hey, he says, you're going to be working around here. Why don't you find out who owns this property and I'll buy it from them. And I said, okay. And so I started looking around, and lo and behold, it's owned by BLM.
Mhm.
So I passed that on to him and told him that when he ever develops his property to the east of Silver Reef Road there and he needs access points, he can just work through the town like I've done.
So in this process, are you going to try to claim one access point for Mr. Hamilton?
No,
No?
no, because he has no idea what he's going to do.
Well, right now he has an access point, and should that ever be paved,
Mhm.
it would seem like it'd be good for him to at least have one into his property.
Well, that's legal.
Okay.
That access point is legal because of prescriptive rights. It's when he goes in and subdivides the property and puts in a paved street,
Oh,
that's when he will have to have, because now he's disturbing the land. And as soon as you disturb the land, then you have to get an access road easement from the BLM.
That was very interesting because I think all of us were thinking that the property owners owned up to the middle of the road.
That's what we were told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see that's not true. Well, thank you for researching this and,
And the yellow part is just highlighting where your property goes.
Yeah, that kind of identifies our property, where it stops, and then the cross-hatched area is the BLM parcel. So I'll probably go like up 100 feet up in there and just tell them that we would like to have permission to go on that property. We're not going to pave it, but we're going to pave up to that line. And in doing so, we'll probably be going on their property.
okay, so, is this something that I, as mayor, can just say yes or to, or do we need to have a vote, you think? And then, well, would somebody like to make a motion? Let's just go ahead and do it that way.
I don't know. I mean, as a property owner, I think he has the right to do that, so I don't know if we,
Well, you're with roads, and if you're gonna do anything with the road, this is one of the worst stretches
I know, and that's.
right in here, and so we need to,
We need that. so
the
we-
town needs to have that, and,
Right, because we can't, that's why we didn't repair part of it, because we thought it was property owners coming out the center of the road.
so here we are, we know who it is, and the petition, so, same thing, let's see, you want me to frame?
Yeah.
I move that we authorize Rick Sant to negotiate with BLM on getting easement for the town and for his construction of the road, Silver Reef Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, then the next item is that I'm here to tell you that probably in August, we will start our cleanup process of cleaning up the soil that is on our property that needs to be taken care of. I have a handout here for you. What I thought I would do is go through this. I think most of you are new to this and you don't know really what our cleanup program is.
If you have extras, Joe Ellen should be here,
Okay, I do.
and Nate should see this also. Nate has reviewed the property with you, I believe.
Yes, I met with him about a month and a half ago with Mr. Gill. First of all, I'd like to introduce Bill Reese. Bill is with the state DEQ. DEQ stands for Department of Environmental Quality, and he's with the state of Utah. When we bought this property in the beginning of January in '06, why, we were aware of the fact that it did have mining on it and that there would be some contaminated material on it, and that we would have to take care of it in order to develop the property. And we learned that there was a program that the state DEQ had where you could sign a contract with them, an agreement with them, to go in and clean it up to their standards, and then they would give you a letter stating that you had done so. And so that's our goal, naturally, is that we want to have it verified that it is clean, that it's been verified by the state, and that it's suitable for residential habitation. After we found out about the program, we met with Bill and his associates and put together the agreement. We then hired Earthfax, which is an environmental engineer, that came and did a study and put together a plan that would allow us to come in and clean up the areas that need to be cleaned up. And we submitted that plan to the state DEQ, and they approved it in January of 2011. Of course, the last 2.5 years, the building business hasn't been the greatest in the world. Real estate has been slow, and so we chose not to do anything for 2.5 years. Now we can see that the market is picking up, things are improving, and we desire to go in and start working on our first phase. As you know, the first phase of our project has been approved, and the second phase has temporary approval. The map that I have over here, the brown line indicates the location of our first 2 phases. Now, even though we're just going to develop the first phase, which is right here, the second phase is so tied in to the cleanup process that we have to clean up both phases in order to develop the first phase. And so when we did this report, what you do is you take grids across the property, and then you go in and start testing all of these areas. And there were hundreds of tests to determine what the status of the property was. And we came up with 4 categories. We had category A, which is basically everything in there except for B and C. But all of that area was clean and didn't require any cleanup. Then area B is the head frame that you've probably seen there. And it does have contaminated material there, and that will be handled on site. And then we have C, which is just a little, as you know, there was a cleanup area up there. And some of that must have run down and settled right in that corner right there. And so we'll be cleaning that up. And then D is the biggest area. And what's happened there is that material was dug up at location B and brought over in this area and dropped on the ground, so that the contamination is really somewhere between 6 and 24 inches. It's not like it's way down there. It has fallen on top of the ground, and it's either in stockpiles or it's just loosely on the ground. And so each area is going to be handled a little bit differently. First of all, area A, naturally we'll do nothing to it because there's no bad material on it. Area B will be handled on site, and what we're going to do is we're going to maintain that as a historical monument, keep the head frame there, and we'll go in and take the material and contain it right there on the site, and then cover it up with rocks and everything. And then we put a ditch at the top to divert water around it, and we put a ditch at the bottom to keep the water from flowing away from it. So what we'll be doing is that we'll be containing all of the material that's there, and then we'll build a fence around it and do it much like we did the cemeteries. If you remember, the cemeteries have the rock pilasters with ornamental iron in between them, and we'll build a 6-foot fence around it with a gate and everything, but we'll put the fence around it so that people can't go on it. And then
So this wouldn't be like what was done with the mercury deposits, the road that goes up Silver, the White Reef and then over. There was a big deposit. It won't be done like that.
No, I'll get to that and show you what we're going to do with it. The next thing is that Area C and Area D, we're going to pick up that loose material, the stockpiles and things like that, pick up that material and put it in a hole right there. And if you'll look on the back of what I gave you, the third page, it shows you how we're going to do that. Now, the one over there that you're referring to, Mayor, it was mounded like that because the mound was there and they just went in and put rocks on top of it. Ours will be a little bit different. What we're going to do, first of all, we need dirt for fill anyway, so we're going to dig a big hole there. And then we'll take the material and put it in the hole and compact it and all. And then on top of that, you put they call it a HDPE safety fence. What it is, it's a material that will go on top of the fill, so that if anybody starts digging down inside for some reason and they hit that, they'll realize that they've hit a controlled fill. Now, that probably will never happen because we'll have a fence around it. But anyway, it's just a safety feature there to keep that from happening. And then we have 12 inches of compacted clay on top of the fill, 12 inches of compacted native soil on top of it, and then 4 inches of crushed rock on top of that. And that'll all be even with the existing ground surface. So what you were saying, it's not going to be a big mound like that. It'll be even with the surface, and then we'll go in and put a fence around it so it's controlled.
Rick, are you required to put a fence around that area?
Yes.
And how long does that fence have to stay there? Is there a period of time? Forever?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a controlled fill area that needs to be completely controlled.
So my question would be, can anything be planted on it so that it's
It's going to be solid rock.
solid rock?
Yeah.
Just was curious.
Isn't that right, Bill?
Anyway, that's my presentation on it, and Bill and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
The area where you're going to dig the hole, that's already been tested and there's no contaminations in that soil.
That's right. Yeah, we did extensive soil tests there to make sure that, first of all, the soil wasn't expansive or anything like that, that we could use it in other areas. There are areas in the subdivision that need compacted fill. And then we tested it to make sure that it didn't have any contaminants in it. And so it'll be clean dirt. And of course, all of this will be monitored. The state will have people there. We will have people there. We have laboratories that will be testing the dirt. So while this process is taking place, it will all be monitored and assured the fact that all the material was picked up, all of it was placed in the area there, and that it was handled properly. And then another thing that we're going to do is that we're going to inform the property owners, other than the town council. We're going to inform the property owners, send them a letter about 2 weeks before we start to let them know that we're going to be out there working on it. We'll control the dust, we'll control the traffic, we'll have water trucks there, everything that's necessary to do a good job.
How big of an area will that be, Rick?
It's an acre.
Area B is an acre, but area D is larger, isn't it?
What's that? Oh, I thought you meant the fill area.
Yeah.
The fill area is an acre. Area D is about 15, 20 acres, about 15 acres.
But there won't be.
But it's just spotted. You see the red dots?
Yeah. And
There's
where would
just
the- where would the
spots
other-
around there.
Where would the other fence be? Over by the cemetery? Right there?
That one right there will be fenced. That will be the head frame, and it'll be a historical monument, and we'll put up a plaque like the town has been doing, and we'll build pilasters similar to the stone that's being used here and similar to the stone that we used out on the cemeteries. So that all ties together as a historical.
But you couldn't pour concrete and cap the whole acre.
Pour concrete,
Yeah. Instead of putting a fence around.
I don't know. What do you have in mind?
Well, I was just thinking, a recreational area where you have tennis courts.
Basketball court or something?
courts, something that could be used rather than,
Uh-huh.
the cost of the fence is gonna be about $80,000.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill?
Concrete would be a lot cheaper.
That's something I can't answer.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Bill Reese. I'm the program manager for the Brownfield Voluntary Cleanup Program for the State Department of Environmental Quality. A couple of just general comments. The remedial action plan was originally proposed back in 2010. We went through a formal public comment on that and actually met with this body back in December of 2010. In order to amend the plan, we would need to go back out to a formal public comment because that would be considered a substantive change. And I'm not necessarily debating the merits of the comment. It would be something that I would need to look at along with my engineer to decide if there was merit in that. What we look for in this scenario, and the way that our program works, is we have parties come to us and say, listen, I'm interested in redeveloping this property. And what the state does through that process is we work with them to develop a strategy, first to look at the site. So it's kind of the concept, if you don't know, you can't make a decision. And so we worked through a number of years with Rick and his team to sample the property and really zeroed in on a number of different areas. Ultimately, as the remedy is proposed, the state typically doesn't dictate the remedy to say this is what you have to do here. That comes from the applicant to propose to us, and what we look at is there a minimum standard that's been met that's protective of public health and the environment? That's where the bottom line right there. So in this particular instance, usually when you have areas that are managed on site, what we look at, in order to remove the material from the site, I think this was looked at, it would have been cost prohibitive due to the volume, and therefore the property probably would have continued to sit idle and abandoned. So to manage the material on site, it's actually a pretty effective strategy. But what we look for as a state agency is to make sure that if we have people in the area, that there is a protectiveness, that somebody won't come in with a dirt bike, for example, or some sort of off-road or anything where we could all of a sudden mess up the cap and any capacity, especially if you manage the material. So typically the best way to avoid that is to fence the area, especially in an area where you could have a lot of recreation. So my suspicion is that's probably the discussions that were had many years ago as we went through this. When we got wind from Rick that he was interested in proceeding, we had put the project on hold for a little while. We looked back at the remedy that was proposed and still feel good about it. And so at this point, any modifications certainly could be raised. I'm not conveying anything. And that's part of the briefing here, is to understand concerns that could come up. But in this case, I would consider that probably substantive enough to where we need to go back out to a public comment.
I was on the council, but I didn't think of it then, so.
No, I appreciate that. I actually, when I was looking at how long it had been, I was thinking that it was in the spring of 11, like 2010. Went by pretty fast, so. But the couple of comments that I do want to make to the members of the council and to the mayor, from the department standpoint, in this scenario, there's a couple of things that are really, really critical. Number one, whenever you've got a considerable construction project of any sort, is dust control, dust control, dust control. Can't be stated enough. And then stormwater management. Now, depending on the time of year, if we're in the monsoon season, that's really critical. If we're in a drier season, certainly that's a requirement of any construction project. So, if we're doing work in August, September, it's very conceivable we could be in a monsoon scenario. And so stormwater management is critical. Dust control is something that we will hit very, very hard as a state agency in terms of oversight. Talk to Rick. I don't sense that as an issue. The plan's already been accepted. And so those are usually a couple of the main things. The other things that we're looking at would be traffic control, tracked out issues. Those are things that are covered in the plan that we would use to manage so that you keep a nice, tight, and neat area. From the standpoint of oversight, I have an engineer that is oversighting the project. I'm filling in for him tonight. He would have a presence here on site, but we also, at the department level, have a district engineer in St. George. We've asked him to be part of the team so that we have a presence here consistently as a way to mitigate and manage costs versus effectiveness and maintain that. We've also informed the local health department and have invited them on site in the morning to walk through all the procedures so that everybody's on board. And this is a similar approach we took back in 2010 before the economy took us down a different path. And so we've tried to maintain consistency in terms of who we've dealt with, making sure that we briefed the council and that everybody was on board. And if there were questions, it's important that we have those addressed. I think we're comfortable with the cleanup as it proceeds. I believe it's protective of public health and the environment.
So, you mentioned track out. I'm not sure exactly how you phrased it. How is that controlled? Because you're going to be having a lot of heavy vehicles going over this contaminated area.
With water,
Well, why?
you just have to keep the material down
Okay.
so that it doesn't get up in the air.
Yeah. I was going to say the other thing is typically it's not uncommon at the entrance of the ingress egress points usually have those areas locked so that as you're moving your trucks in and out you keep mud off of the tires. And when I think about track out, I think about making sure that it doesn't end up on the city streets and things like that. And that to me is really kind of the ongoing management. And those are all procedures that are in the plan. Rick hit it right. The classic is just make sure you've got dust suppression. And then there should be standard decon procedure, what we call decontamination procedures, just to make sure it doesn't make sense to clean something up only to turn around and recontaminate it. And so these are all procedures that we would be working with them to try and follow.
And we're talking what, arsenic and mercury and
Yes. The normal, uranium, arsenic, mercury,
right. So we
those items
definitely
that were used during the mining and that were dug up in the mining. That head frame right there was a uranium mine. And when they dug that material up, they spread it all over there, and that's why we're cleaning it up now. Back then, it was in the 50s, and nobody really thought anything about environmental control.
Yeah, that's why having it turned through dust later off city roads and tracked all over is not ideal.
I agree with that. Can I say one more thing to the council? The last thing as part of the process that we do is collect, after the cleanup has been completed, is collect the confirmation samples. Demonstrate that, okay, we had this area, we went in, we dug it up, we got down to the depth. We'll actually have field screening devices on site that you can actually get real-time data. And then, but that's considered screening level data. And then ultimately, once we're ready, we think, okay, we know where it is, we got it. Then there's procedures in place to collect what we call confirmation samples, which are your final real-time samples that go to a certified laboratory that we can look at and say, okay, here are the standards we've accepted. Here's where the numbers came in. We're below, gee, we're down, we're above. Let's go take some more.
Any other questions?
Coming back to Frank's thought, I was wondering how involved is that public process here?
I don't know, let me explore the idea.
Okay.
Having a public, we all need to think about it and think if it's really something that the town would like to have and that it would fit out there. And because as you know, that area right there, we're deeding to the town as a park, as well as that area right there on either side of the Protestant cemetery. So that whole property there will be owned by the town. And possibly we could do something like that that would tie in with the park atmosphere. But I think, I need to discuss it with the state DEQ. We need to find out really what's entailed there and also consider the cost. But, let's talk about it and see what's involved.
I'm just thinking, the idea of tennis courts or basketball courts, in your total build out, it would be nice to have
Yep.
that kind of recreation
Pickleball courts would be
Yeah.
good, that's probably.
availability to.
Oh, yeah,
the
pickleball.
residents.
Yeah, everybody's playing pickleball now, aren't they? Okay, we will look into that and I'll get back to you.
Can I make one more comment relative to that? The one thing that I would caution on is we look at on-site management, it gets down to a level of exposure in terms of if it's isolated and consolidated in a way where people aren't being exposed to it. That's the ultimate objective from a public health. If we were to do something where we start bringing people onto the very stuff that we manage, that could change the exposure scenario, which could cause the whole remedy to change. And so I don't say these words in a negative manner, only the facts of the scenario, which is what the DEQ has to look at is protection of public health. But we do look at the end use as to try and find a way to manage the two together, but sometimes the end use and what's protective aren't always compatible with each other.
I was just thinking, you've got 4 inches of rock. You'd still need to have the compacted clay and then compacted
Yeah,
fill on
everything
top
would
of
be just
that.
exactly like it shows there. And then we pour concrete over the top of it.
Instead of
However,
rock.
what Bill says, when we get into it, it just may not fit into the parameters of the DEQ guidelines.
We can certainly take a look at it. I mean, I've heard the comment. We can certainly take a look at it. I can talk to Rick and see what his perspective is.
And we understand if it's not possible, that's fine, and we don't want to cause any additional cost to the development.
But we might as well look at it and see what,
But I know how much we spent on the.
yeah,
the
it's kind of a new idea. I don't think anybody's ever done it before. Okay, is that it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? You want me to come up? The water, that's the only kind of pest control I know of is water. Breathing, I mean, your fleet of water trucks up there use more water in one day and they use it a month.
First of all,
I'm just kind of curious.
I bought 105 acre feet of water, and I've given it to the LDWA, and I own a lot of water, so that's where I'm getting it. And I have we have authorized to build 105 lots on our property of 150 acres, and we bought 105 acre feet of water to serve those lots. And so, as we get into that, we'll work with LDWA, but we've given them quite a bit of water.
Very good.
Okay.
If you ever have any left over, let me know about plant grass.
Okay, well,
Cemetery.
I think we will have water left over. I can't imagine that a residential home's going to use an acre foot of water, but that's what was required.
Yeah, well,
If I can talk them into a half an acre foot, why, I'll sell you the rest.
Thank you.
okay, we're skipping B at this point and moving to C, the cemetery, and we have a limited time to still have a quorum. So with the cemetery, we have received a petition from the Sullivan family. Thank you, girls. Thank you. Thanks for
Just so you know, Mayor, item B's actually been resolved.
Great, thank you. Yay! I like resolutions. He said he's taking care of the fire hydrant for us.
Oh, okay.
Good. I thought you should do it anyway, so I'm glad you did. Okay, so we received a lengthy document from Janice Sullivan representing her grandmother, but the crux of it comes down to the fact that she, at the end, calls on Americans Disability Act status report, citing a cemetery in Nevada where the county had to agree to make the grounds accessible to individuals with disabilities. So I mostly just wanted to make the council aware that this problem is there and that we need to address it. Darryl, you want to come up and speak briefly to it?
Darrell Nelson, Leeds Cemetery sexton. Yeah, this, what do they call this? The name
Oh,
escapes me.
petition, yeah.
The petition. I wish I'd had the names and phone numbers of all of these, or the phone numbers and addresses of these folks. I always need volunteers, you know.
Well, looking at the names, I thought I saw one of a person who's dead, and I just, I don't know. Do you know the Hamiltons? Is she dead? So, her name's on here. I wonder how recent this is.
I only recognize 3 names. I think it's all second ward folks. But anyway, no, I'm aware of Dennis Erling's problem. When Mayor Roberts locked up the gate, I thought about that. It would have been nice to lock the other one also. The reported vandalism we had up there, I doubt if it was vandalism. I think people come in there and they start putting ornaments and rocks and sand and gravel around the graveyards, and I believe that somebody went in there to do that, and probably trying to get out back over a headstone or did something of that sort. I don't ever recall any vandalism in the cemetery. You get people in there, and I've repainted the sign. There's been signs up there all the time that they can't put any adornments or plant trees, or put the tombstones in until they notify me or the sexton, whoever he may be. I've only had one person in 11 years ask me about that, but yet this stuff keeps coming up. I've repainted the signs. Not a real quality job. I'm not much of a sign painter, but my budget is rather limited. For people not to do this, because what it does, it restricts our access with the backhoe and the truck that brings in the backhoe to dig the grave.
Does the backhoe go in through this southern gate, or does it come in from the north side in that
It depends on where the
grave?
the grave's dug. You might go in the front and out the back. The hearse, when the hearses come in, I usually
It's one way.
bring them in the south and then out through that north service gate. But the backhoe or the tune company or the vault company when he sets his vault, it depends. It's whichever's the easiest.
Could I make a comment here?
Yeah.
I think we need to check with legal counsel, but I believe that if we modify anything on that cemetery, we will be required by ADA to put in sidewalks and everything else, because it's not been changed, it is how it is, then we don't have to do anything. But if we go in and put a path in there, then we're gonna be required to put paths in other places, and that's, you're grandfathered in until you modify a building or modify an area. And we need to check on that, because if we do as they're requesting, to be able to have a wheelchair come in, then it has to be a paved area.
It would be hard. It would be hard to make that
We would not have.
disability friendly.
That's right. So it's not, so what we need to do is have a policy of something that people will either call you or someone in the town that can make arrangements for people to get into the cemetery and make it easy. But, try and decide where you're gonna pour a path, and then somebody else is gonna say if someone's buried over here and they can't get there. I don't see cemeteries doing that.
No, that wouldn't have been one of my recommendations.
I would make a comment that the petition is only asking that the gate be unlocked.
That's correct.
It's not asking for pavement or,
Right. But what I'm saying
Wheelchair.
is, we could modify the gate to have, to where a passenger could take in with a wheelchair
or walk.
or walk.
That would even be worse because of the hill going down. And you wouldn't want anybody in a wheelchair going down, through a walking gate. You're talking about that south gate that is got a walking, it's got about a 4-foot piece and then about an 8-foot piece. And that would be even more dangerous. What Janice wants to do is drive down and park near the tool shed. Which is not bad. Leaving the gate open, I know what she does. I see her there all the time, and she just takes care of Carlisle's grave and a few others of the family. But that's her thing, is easy access, because it's hard for her to walk from the parking lot to the.
So, not to beat this thing to death, not to be it, because we're talking about some very apologies about that, but what if they checked out a key and they were responsible for opening the gate, driving down there, and then when they left to lock and bring the key back? What would
Most of this stuff happens after hours.
Well, that's what I mean, but they could get the key
Yeah.
the day before or whatever.
That was a solution that Daryl and I talked about yesterday, was making the key available. There's two people, there's Geraldine Sterling, and I don't know Janice is, I think, maybe the granddaughter.
The only two I see up there regularly is Susan
Oh, she
Savage
has
and
a key.
Geraldine Sterling.
Susan has a key?
No.
Geraldine has a key.
She does.
Does she have a key?
Why she's complaining?
Ask her if she does not have a key that was given to her, I suspect, by George Friedel.
Okay.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
So, maybe then, that would be the temporary solution to the concerns, is for the two elderly women that have this problem. Give them a key. And if they lost it, get another one, or get them in block and
Yeah.
get new keys.
I might say in this, they're talking about, they wanted, certain people wanted to get in, but nobody was ever available. Nobody has ever called the town hall, because if they had, the town hall would have called me, and I've never, in 11 years, I've never received a call for somebody to please come and open the gate so we can get down and access the cemetery. But as far as leaving the gate open all the time, I'm not really for that.
Yeah.
But as far as certain people having access, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Could I
Yes.
say something real quick? I'm on the agenda to have something to say, but I got a report at Carl Hutchings' funeral. I mentioned the funeral, or the cemetery was looking really bad, and I mentioned to Bishop Wilson of the First Ward, asked him who the scoutmaster was. And he said he'd get in touch with the scoutmaster and me. Then I get reports that there's all kinds of kids running around the cemetery. And when they left, it was beautiful. And it was Boy Scout Troop 408
408,
of the First Ward.
and so we'll send a thank you.
Yeah, and
trash
that
letter.
was
Thank you.
Scoutmaster Mark Brigade, but under the direction of Brian Hansen was the ramrod on that. And a whole bunch of scouts, and
So who should I send the note to?
well, I've written something here, and just on behalf of the town of Leeds and Mary.
Oh, you sent, okay, great.
Roar, I'd like to sincerely thank you. This is to Mark Wrigley. Thank you, Brian Hansen, the members of Scout Troop 408 and their friends for the exceptional community service by weeding and cleaning the Leeds Town Cemetery in preparation for the Memorial Day weekend. The grounds look very good and presentable to the cemetery visitors. I'm grateful for all their efforts. Received several comments that the cemetery looked as good as they'd ever seen it. The community spirit shown by your group is to be commended.
Great. So,
Anyway, I want to send that to them because they really did a remarkable job.
That's great.
thank you for finding out who,
It's nice to
who to
have
thank.
volunteers. And I remember you were a stickler on volunteerism. And I admire you on that. We need more volunteers. Like I say, I got a whole list of them here. If I can read the names, I'll
Yes,
I wish you the best of luck with that list.
yes.
Yeah, right. I know what you mean.
Okay, to finish out, citizen comments, is there anyone that needs to make a citizen comment at this time? Oh. Am I supposed to read it? Here.
Sign ordinance 4D, 7D.
Brent needs to leave now, so we will lose our quorum. So we're tabling discussion on the. Okay, so no citizen comments, so
So I move we adjourn. Check the election.